I got one of those invitations from the county saying, would like people to volunteer to help us put together this legacy book. So I told my husband, well, let's go, let's find out. I mean, we're finally going to have time. We used to, wake up real early, take the slug line, go to the State Department and then the CIA, come back at night about 7:30, and we never really got to know what we wanted to know about our county. And we were watching the farm that was near us, right near Public Library, disappear. We were seeing so many changes, and we knew there was so much that we really want to preserve for our grandchildren, the stories, particularly since our two grandchildren were the first Foleys in our family to be born here. So this is their land. I want to tell them about their land. So anyway, back to Fairfax County stories. I walked in, and so I looked at the outline. So I saw the outline, and I said, no, how can you write a book about 400 years of Fairfax County and not even have a story about the Asian Americans who are the largest minority group, have been the largest minority group in Fairfax County? So I got the same answer I got with the senior center with the OLs, which is, when are you writing your story?
There you go. See, come up with an idea, and there you go. We put you to work.
Anyway, I did actually thought about it, and I decided, all right, I'm going to write about the 1898 Spanish-American War, because that started the relationship, really the intense relationship between the U.S. and the Philippines, where I came from.
That's right, your home
So
country.
I wrote about, exactly, I was born in the Philippines. So I thought, all right, I'll write about the 1898 Spanish-American War and talk about the history of the Asian Americans in the U.S. And particularly in Fairfax County, talked about education, business, civic participation, volunteerism of Asian Americans here. So I did that, and then after it was finished, I started going around talking to the History Commission saying, well, how come you haven't done anything, a book on the Fairfax County Asian Americans? I mean, we take history very seriously here. I mean, after all, George Washington lived here. This is serious stuff. And you cannot have a history that ignores a major portion of your society. America is all about including everybody. That's what democracy is.
Right.
So of course, again, I got the next question. Where is your book?
And here it goes. You got the stack.
2010. And again, I have to thank Sharon Boulevard. There must be something special about the waters in Braddock District, because the supervisors have been tremendous and wonderful about engaging with the community. I met Sharon at on Memorial Day in 2007 at Fairfax Memorial Park, where my father was buried. So I went up to her and I said, you know, and she was been working on the Braddock True Gold at that time.
Gold,
so
right.
I said, I'd like to do something about Fairfax County Asian American history. And bless her heart, she said, sure, come on over, let's talk about it. You know, almost like you. And I said, we need a church. She said, sure. You did that. And by the way, let me take this time also to thank you for agreeing this year to co-sponsor the Fairfax County Asian American History Project. We really are continuing our work for the next few years with our annual naturalization programs and our continued research. And to have bipartisan leadership in co-sponsoring our program is really important. I really appreciate that. Thank you again.
You're welcome. You know, it's a great program. It's you know, you're completely right that it's important to recognize all aspects of our community, and your efforts with the History Project and doing those things, a great help to the greater community. The naturalization ceremonies, for those who haven't been to one, and I went, I think it was last year.
You were there
or the year
the
before.
first one.
Yeah.
The first one.
What a boy! It really invigorates your spirit in America to see people who have, you know, committed themselves, coming from another country and said, this is going to be my country now, and taking that pledge. It's a great thing, and I would encourage all citizens of the county who have not been to one, find a day to come out. You know, they're held. We have them at the Government Center. The federal court does them on a regular basis. Come out and see a day when people are taking the oath to be Americans. It's a great event.
And we have new Americans who have already served as soldiers, defending American values before they even became American, before they even got their certificate. So it's truly moving in that sense. And in an interesting sort of way, this was also historic, because this was the first ever naturalization ceremonies ever done in Fairfax County Government Center. So in a way, we are making history, but we make history every day. But we chose the naturalization ceremony as a way to celebrate Asian American Heritage Month because, as you know, the history of this country has been such that in 1790, naturalization was limited only to free white persons. So Asian Americans, along with others, were excluded at the time. It took long years of struggle for Asian Americans to actually have citizenship rights. So we thought, as the largest minority group here in Fairfax County, it is appropriate for us to take a leadership and welcome the new Americans in celebrating, in fact, the progress in civil rights in our country. And talking about civil rights, the other book that I was working on, which I'd love to talk about, is this Little Zion Baptist Church.
That's right.
It's a church across from where I live. And the reason I got involved in it, one thing leads to another, right? Is because there is a Korean American church in it now. It's called Happiness Presbyterian Church. So as part of my other book, I decided to go in and find out about it. Well, lo and behold, I found out that this was an African-American church built in 1891 by freed slaves. These were people who, after the Civil War, decided to donate land and build a church so that their community could have a place to worship, a place for burial, and a place for education. And it's such a fascinating story that I decided to try and document it for a historic marker. We're still working on that one. But in the process...
We're going to get that marker, though, aren't we?
We will get that marker. Right. But in the process, I got another book, which I thought was interesting because I found out that that church was related to the Woods Community Center here in Burke Conservancy in Braddock District. And that's a place where we do our line dancing. Well, it turns out that that place was purchased in 1803 by the Kofor family. So the Kofor home is worth a historic marker. And the Board of Trustees of the Burke Conservancy voted to spend some funds to have a historic marker for that. So we'll get this historic marker sometime this year. I'm working with the Historic Commission on that one. But to me, it's amazing as I tell the people who are line dancing when I go visit them. Here we are line dancing, and if you think of ghosts in old house, people were dancing here at the time of Thomas Jefferson. Isn't that amazing? And the Kofor family's history actually included working with George Washington, George Mason, Thomas Jefferson, and a member of the Kofor family founded Fairfax City. For me, it's such an amazing story and so important for young Burke residents, particularly our grandchildren, to know whose footsteps were here before and that they're following, and what these people did to build what became Burke. My next project actually is going to be a coloring book for my grandchildren.
Hey, now, show everybody the front of the book. That's right, so we can see that too.
Oh yeah, this is my family. These are the two homes we've had here. We live in West Springfield and in Burke. It's still part of the Burke census designated place. And our house is very near the Kofor home and also the Little Zion Baptist Church. But there is so much here in the Burke West Springfield area that I actually am working on a driving trail of historic Burke, particularly for the seniors, who are now getting more interested in what happened here. And
it is a fascinating history.
Oh my God, yes.
And we learn a lot about ourselves. We can connect to the past, learn about our history, and that helps prepare us to set our vision for the future, to have a sense of the community over time. So community is not just something that exists in a snapshot, but we have a history and we have a future, and we can tie those things together. And you were speaking of civil rights and the great progress that's been made, and more work to be done, and more work that will be done, and the history of that, and how we pull that forward. And you've documented some of that in your books, and in the continued efforts with the naturalization ceremonies and everything else. And so that's great that we're working on the history and working on looking at the future all at the same time.
Well, just to tell you, during my interviews, because we did a lot of oral history interviews of the Asian Americans who live here, several of them had experienced discrimination and unfair treatment in California and Chicago, where they came from. One even was interned during World War II as a Japanese American. But all of them said that here in Fairfax County, they felt accepted. And actually, on a personal note, in other places that we went, because we were in the Foreign Service, so we went in different places, Mike and I got used to being stared at. You know, since in the last decade or so, I don't think anybody stares at me here anymore. I'm part of the community, and
That's
it
right.
feels so good to be able to do that. And I think Fairfax County has done a tremendous job. I think I take my hat off to the Board of Supervisors, to the leaders of Fairfax County, who've tried to make this a strong, integrated community as much as possible. I mean, of course, we're human beings, you know, things happen.
But, you know, and it's the people. I think what draws us together in Fairfax County, the values that we have of, you know, of hard work and excellence, engagement, education, that's what it means to live in Fairfax County. And those values go across racial lines, ethnic lines, nationalities, age groups, economic status, and we're really held together by those principles that we live by, and it's what makes the county such a great place to live.
But it's also important to remind our youth that one should not take these things for granted.
Right.
I mean, I watched Yugoslavia when it had the Olympics, and everybody was saying, it's done, it's made, we've succeeded, Tito has done it, we'll never be divided again. And you cannot take those things for granted. So I think it is important to remind our youth in particular that we are blessed with this multicultural gathering of residents who like to work together, but it's important to work at it, because there was a time when that wasn't the case.
That's right, and we do, and as we work on it, it makes our community stronger, makes our county stronger, and you know, that's really the essence of what we have in Fairfax County: strong communities, excellence in education, committed, engaged citizens. And you know, I thank you for all the work that you've done to make the county a better place to live, recording the history. And there's so much more we could talk about, but we're running out of time. I want to thank Cora for joining us and talking about the rich history of the county, as well as sharing some of the things going on at the Senior Center Without Walls. She's a valuable member of our community and a great example of the type of engaged citizen we want to cultivate here in Fairfax County. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Braddock Neighborhood News. Thank you for watching. Tune in next month for another edition, and please remember to look for ways to volunteer. Your community needs you.